Well, good morning. We're here bright and early, and the tables have turned. So this morning, I'm going to be sort of interviewing you, Laura, right?
It's something like train the trainer, which I've always feared if I ever introduced that to my group training sessions, I would be in a whole ton of pain. So we'll see what
Yes.
happens
So
today.
beware. So we're delving into the world of pelvic floor today. And I suppose it's fair to say that stories about poo and wee may leak into conversation.
I hope
See
so.
what I did there?
Yes.
So maybe just a little bit of warning to anyone who is a little bit of squeamish in those areas that
Or if you're
we
eating, you don't
or
want to
eating.
listen to that.
Yes, we're going to have quite honest conversations. So what I did in preparation for talking to you today, Lara, is, well, actually, firstly, how are you? We had a little bit of a pre-chat before we started recording, and yeah, it's not, you go. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm in a bit of a shit state, really. Yeah, because we were talking about how I can't sit down for long periods of time because I've
Mm,
injured myself just
yeah.
recently. No idea how, but it could be a number of things that I've done wrong. Now I've hurt my back and I'm all taped up with a physio and I have to go back tomorrow, and it just makes me realise how I need my body and how I have been taking it for granted.
Mm.
And I can't wait to start moving again because I haven't, like I said, I haven't been training for a week.
Hmm.
I can barely walk. And then trying to pick up Arthur, who constantly wants to be
Hmm.
picked up because he's 2 and he doesn't understand that when I say no, he's like, but I still need to be picked up. I don't understand what you're saying to me.
And then you feel guilty for not doing it as well.
Yeah. Or I just just get the sea of red rage like I did
Hmm.
last night.
What happened last night?
Stabbing. No. So I was dealing with the 2 boys arguing over the same toy over and over again. And it was just constant. And I understand that that's what they do. But when I'm in pain all the time, I have less resilience. So Monty decided to kick the ball one too many times and hurt Arthur again. So I took the ball and I took a sharp knife and stabbed it. And at that time, it felt amazing. And then they both started screaming and sobbing, like, you've broken my favourite toy in the world. And I was still in red rage mist for about 10, 15 minutes. And they were still crying. They were both going, Daddy, I want Daddy. And then James came back like half an hour later. They were still crying. And I just said to James, I've got to go. I need to leave right now. He said, go, do what you need to do. And so I hobbled down the road in the dark, in the cold, didn't have enough layers on. So I was just walking and shaking, thinking, should I call someone to chat or should I just walk? Or do I need to sit? Or should I go and sit in and have a glass of wine somewhere in a bar? What should I do here? So I ended up just walking up and down to the beach and back,
Hmm.
came back, and then had to explain to James the whole situation.
Oh man, I think it's just one of those things. Like you felt so good. I can imagine how good it felt stabbing that ball.
Damn ball.
And then you come back and then they cry and then you feel guilty and all that. But like being a parent isn't about being perfect, is it? Like we just can't be perfect. It's about how you deal with whatever's happened. So you did what you needed to do. You took some time out, and it's amazing that you had the ability to do that with James coming home as well. And then you were able maybe to just go on with a little bit more resilience for the rest of your evening.
Yeah, I mean, we were just quiet with each other. They were just getting on. Fortunately, it was bedtime.
Mm,
It was
put them to
already,
bed.
yeah, see ya. Good night. Love you. Sorry for
Yeah.
popping your ball.
And then we've both had crap sleep last night as well, haven't we?
Yeah, why were you up
So
since 4?
I don't know. I woke up at 4. I probably needed the toilet, which is something else we're going to talk about today, isn't it?
Age.
Age, that too, waking and like not drinking too much before bed and all that kind of stuff.
Mm,
But yeah, yeah, I just woke up, and because it was 4, I think I'd had enough sleep to be awake, and my mind just started going, and I couldn't get back to sleep. And I felt okay when I woke up, but then when I started actually interacting with my kids, and my son managed to drop his just freshly made eggs and toast on the floor almost straight after I gave it to him, and like little things like that. Like I just kept doing things. I was like, oh, my day is just bad. So yeah, I'm not in a good mood, but I'm trying to snap out of it because like when you start thinking about that, you just think then everything goes badly. Whereas days that you're more resilient, your son drops the eggs on the floor and you're like, oh, it's fine, ha ha ha, kind of thing. Let's get
Yeah,
on with
all
it.
good. Everyone makes mistakes. Mummy does it too, doesn't she?
Yeah. And I was like, Paris, have you done
Yeah.
that? What happened? It just slipped out of his hand. But anyway, um, so here we are in our like sleep deprived, slightly grumpy frames of mind, and you've got the added addition of pain, and we're gonna talk about pelvic floor. Now, it's not the first time you're talking about this in your podcast. You've covered it a number of times, and in preparation for this, I listened to all 7 episodes that you've
I
got.
can't believe that as well. You binge listened.
I binge listened.
I didn't realise how many there were.
I know. You know what is interesting is I learned a lot from them. And also, I feel like I've now just scratched the surface. So I can only imagine how you feel knowing a lot more and having sort of delved into the sort of different things about pelvic floor because of the issues you've faced, like with all the knowledge that you have and all the knowledge that, and realizing how much actually still you probably don't know and still you've got to learn. So like for anyone who is interested in this area, I would strongly suggest going back and listening to those episodes as well, because I think they all have stuff that's different and stuff that's good in them. And they also, one or two of them made me a little bit emotional as well, like when you and Mags were talking about the episode of pelvic floor, what you're not being told, and that really sort of touches the nerve, I think. But I think what we're hoping to get out of today is that you've come a long way in your pelvic floor journey, and you've done a lot of learning along the way, and that's a lot guided by your own personal experience. But in general, pelvic floor issues aren't often discussed openly, right? And so you're trying to kind of break the stigma about that as well by just speaking out and trying to talk about it. So how do you think this sort of lack of conversation affected your experience, and what's motivated you to speak out?
I was thinking about this because I truly didn't know the extent of my injuries when I first had Monty in 2019. I didn't understand what a Kegel was. I didn't understand why I kept having a physio check me down there and asking me to like draw in my vagina or hold a breath. And I had to keep coming back. And to me, I was like, this is a nuisance. I'm sleep deprived. I'm trying to understand how to be a mum. I've got this new baby. Also, I was in the thick of postpartum depression too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was highly anemic. And I kept having to go for doctor's checkups. And Monty wasn't feeding because I didn't have enough breast milk because I bled so much in the birth. But no one had told me that my milk would be impacted from the bleed. So he was starved for about 2 weeks postpartum until I got over myself and gave him formula, because there was a lot of fear for me to give him formula. I thought I was poisoning him. I thought I was inadequate. And so I tried to do both in the end. I then got mastitis a couple of times. I got a breast abscess. So I had to go back to get that drained. They were going to do surgery. They were going to cut my breast. Fortunately, there was a young doctor that came in 4 or 5 hours later while I was waiting to be cut, who said, we don't need to do that. Because I said, is that going to impact my breast, my milk, everything? And they said, yeah, as if like, so what? You need to get it removed. And it was the size of a peach. It's so funny because at the time I thought I was waking up with night sweats in the night.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, this is just postpartum. I had an infection. I just didn't realise it. So I got it drained in the end. Like there was pus, 50 mils of pus came out on the first one. I had to keep going back every week to get it drained, on top of learning how to breastfeed, on top of the anemia, on top of postpartum depression. So the pelvic floor was like the back of my mind. I just thought, oh, this is my body. This is postpartum. I didn't really start paying attention to pelvic floor stuff or core stuff. It wasn't even on my radar, even as a PT. I just wasn't, until probably a year and a half postpartum, when I was like, I still feel really not myself. I still feel quite vulnerable, and then I started looking into things. I think that's when I started healing, trying to heal from postpartum, because I knew in the back of my mind I wanted a second baby, but at that time I was so traumatized by the first, I thought I need to heal because I don't want to carry this onto my second baby. So I think during that time, during that journey of healing, I realized it's not just a psychological thing. There's physical stuff going on for me too, and that's not normal. It's not just mum life. And yeah, that's when it all started, I think. Started training in different things for my own knowledge, because I didn't know any of this stuff. And I was a personal trainer. I should know this stuff. But coming out of PT school, you're definitely not trained in any sort of postpartum rehab, core, pelvic floor stuff.
Well, I was thinking about that. It's so funny, just you're listening to your birth story, I think, because the pelvic floor issues are often tied in with birth stories, and like there's so much that I can relate to there. It's making me feel a little bit emotional, but I guess that's for another discussion. When I was listening back to the other podcasts, it kind of made me both mad and sad that, you know, we as women are really let down by healthcare in the whole area of pelvic floor knowledge and maintenance and care. And I was thinking about all the exercise classes I've ever been to, or I had a PT for a brief period of time as well. Like no one ever talks about pelvic floor unless it's something to do with postpartum stuff. But it's actually so integral to everyone, because it's men have a pelvic floor as well.
Exactly.
But it's specifically for the majority of women who also may go on to have children as well. So it's really important that we know about this stuff, and yet we just don't know, do we?
No, it's just not. And I don't know why. It's only starting recently, people being aware. But like you said, it seems to be just the pre and postpartum classes or mums classes, as if like no one else needs to understand the pelvic floor. But women who haven't had children have pelvic floor issues. Men who haven't had children have a pelvic floor. They have back issues. They have postural issues. It could all be linked to their pelvic floor.
And incontinence, right?
Incontinence as well.
So let's just, in case anyone isn't clear on what exactly the pelvic floor is, can you sort of explain to us what that is?
Yep. And I can do it visually, because then it helps in my head, because I'm a visual person. So it's a sling of muscles that goes from your tailbone to your sit bone, and then in between the legs is like all of these interconnected muscles, and they hold the bowel, the uterus, and the bladder. And obviously for men, it just holds the bowel and the bladder.
And did you know that before you started looking into the pelvic floor stuff?
Hell no.
No. Me neither. I knew about Kegels, and like for me, it was kind of related to clenching and releasing your vagina, but not necessarily about the whole sling aspect of it.
Yeah, and like how does the baby even come out of that sling? There's so much going on with that pelvic floor, and how you can do so much to improve things, even if you're completely I don't want to say broken, because that's a very negative word, because I saw myself as quite broken the more that I was told, this is an issue, I've got this now and this now. Sometimes I thought I was broken, and other times I thought, well, okay, what can we do about it?
Yeah. And then I think one of your episodes, you talked about a physio finally coming out and saying, you're not broken, Lara.
And yeah. I think really that's very important, because I talked to a lot of mums, women, and they say, oh yeah, I have seen a pelvic floor physio, but they didn't help, or they didn't make me feel good, or I didn't understand what I was meant to do, or XYZ. And I always say, okay, find someone else. You need to find someone who you connect with and who will make you feel empowered and strong, and that you can feel better about your body, and that you can stop leaking, you can improve your prolapse symptoms, you can get your core functioning better again. Because you can.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who tells a woman that they can't, or it's just that it's their body now because they've had a baby, is doing a disservice to that person.
There's a wonderful quote from the episode that you did with Dr. Mukherjee about with the sort of new scientific developments for prolapse support, and she said our bodies have a fantastic ability to regenerate, just sometimes they need a bit of help. But I think that's important to focus on that, isn't it? That we our bodies are amazing and they do have this fantastic ability to regenerate if we know what to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what does cause pelvic floor issues? Is it just linked to childbirth? We sort of touched on that already.
No, so many things.
Yeah.
Pregnancy and childbirth are a big thing to do with pelvic floor and core, for sure. And whether it's vaginal or C-section, they both impact that pelvic floor area. I think lots of women need to know that. They think, again, often I say, have you had your pelvic floor checked? No, because I've had C-sections. Okay, but you've still been pregnant. You've still grown a baby. You've still had that weight put down, pressure on your pelvic floor. And C-section, I've just done an episode, which will go live next week, on the impact of what that operation has done to your body. I think also people are told that it's the easy option to have a C-section. It is not. Both of them are tough in their own way, and both of them need proper rehab and recovery support and knowledge and information, which again is not shared. So people can listen to that when that's live. Chronic
Although
pressure.
I did think of envy and to people who had C-sections after I had 2 vaginal births, thinking, well, at least it didn't obliterate their vaginas.
I think someone described their vagina to me as a smashed egg.
Yes.
That's the other thing, isn't it? It could go in a different topic, but it's I had to be confident again looking at my vagina. I had fear about what that would look like, the state of it, and that in itself not connecting with a big part of your body. Like we talk about the C-section scar work, people don't want to touch it, people don't want to go near it, people just think that's on my body but I don't want to go near it. Again, it's the vagina, not wanting to look at your vagina in case you just sob because you're like, what is this mess?
Yeah.
So it's connecting with yourself again, which takes time, and it's okay if you're not ready yet, especially if you're newly postpartum.
Yes, definitely.
Other things, so not just pregnancy and childbirth, but chronic pressure. So if you're constipated or you're straining for a poo, that's big load. Heavy lifting, like I said, people who haven't had babies are still suffering with pelvic floor leaking, maybe because of poor engagement, poor pressure management, poor posture. Their lifts are too heavy for what they can manage with their pressure right now.
Okay.
Obesity, constant coughing, hormonal changes like menopause, perimenopause, that can impact. High impact exercise and sports. So if you're suddenly going back into things like CrossFit, running, jumping, I do want people to be aware that just because this does change the pelvic floor, it doesn't mean you can't do this again. It's just about tweaks and changes and knowing how you're impacting it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, people come to me and like, I've been told that I can't run anymore when I'm a marathon runner because I've had a baby and because I leak. It's just my body now. Again, they're being given the wrong information. It's a disservice. It's just understanding how they run, pulling it back a little bit, doing little drills of impact, and then learning. I learned recently that a simple thing that you can change when you run is thinking tits over toes. So leaning more forward can drive more into the glutes rather than us running upright and being very bouncy can add more pressure to the pelvic floor. So that slight adjustment could see someone running without leaking, and imagine the power that they have just from that change.
Just a little bit of a tweak to their running style.
But no one's telling this information. No one is sharing. Everyone's just saying, this is your body. You've had pelvic floor issues. Suck it up. Go to Pilates and do some breathing.
Right.
Going back to breathing mechanics can impact the pelvic floor. Hypermobility, which is against me because I'm hypermobile. So on top of all of the things that I had with the childbirth, aging, getting older, I went back to lifestyle and posture. So if you sit quite a lot, you're in this seated position, you get up, you're still in that hunched, rolled shoulder position, the impact on your pelvic floor would change, the pressure in your breathing would change.
So I think it's fair to say there's a lot of things that can impact on your pelvic floor and cause pelvic floor issues, right?
Yeah.
And all in all, they can vary quite a lot from person to person. And you've been quite open about your own experience with severe tearing, levator, avulsions. That reminds me of Harry Potter. Do you know in that when what is it? Wingardium Leviosa, or not Leviosa, or Leviosa. Or anyway, A levator avulsion and a stage one over two prolapse. Is that what would you
It's
say?
kind
Stage
of a
two prolapse?
1/2 prolapse. So there's
Yeah,
different levels of
yeah.
prolapse. We could go into that as well on prolapse because
Mm.
it's quite a negative thing to say to someone you've got a prolapse when so many people can have that laxity of muscle in their 20s, again not having children. So
Hmm.
why are we making them think it's a abnormal thing, you've got a prolapse, when it can be? We don't say that about our boobs drooping, your boobs are prolapsed. No, they've just changed. So why are we making women, when it's stage 1, stage 2 prolapse is so common,
Uh-huh.
why are we making women think that they're broken and they need to pull back on the exercise that they love when we could just make tweaks?
And not only that, is if it affects so many people in hidden ways, right? So I don't know do you know what the statistic is? It's like 50%
Yeah,
of people can have a prolapse, and many people
exactly
may have
that, 50%.
many people might have mild to moderate prolapses and not have no symptoms and not be aware of it. But then those the prolapse, I suppose, could become more severe later on in life as we age. So there's a lot that you can do for preventative care when you have potentially prolapses in early stages that you might not even know about. So the fact that we don't know this stuff and don't talk about it is quite a tragedy really, isn't it?
It really is. I think we should be taught this stuff in school earlier. When you go through
Mm-hmm.
like talking about periods, we should talk
Mm-hmm.
about childbirth, not to fear things, not to scare them, but just to
Mm-hmm.
share information.
So one of the things you said about levator avulsions is that if you've had a forceps delivery, you're at increased risk of a levator avulsion. And also if you have had a forceps delivery and an
Episiotomy.
episiotomy, you're at greater risk in terms of pelvic floor issues as well. And I had both those things. I had a forceps delivery, and I had an
Yeah, we know.
you say it,
You had an
an
epi.
And like I didn't have no one told me, no, didn't have any follow up about that. I had a forceps delivery. Obviously it wasn't planned. And then, no follow up at all. I didn't even know what an epi was before I had one. So I hadn't,
Mm.
I didn't even go in informed in terms of, oh, we're just going to, for people who don't know, it's when they snip you a little bit to preempt tearing when they do a forceps delivery. So I had no clue. So it kind of made me a bit annoyed hearing that. And this is the first time I'm hearing that at the age of 44, 8 years past the time that happened to me, that the sort of added risks to my pelvic floor that the forceps delivery had.
Yeah, it's disgusting, really, that we're not shared
Mm-hmm.
this information to say this is what an episiotomy is. It's technically meant to prevent tearing. However, I had an episiotomy and I got
Mm-hmm.
3C tearing. So it's not always the way. But
Mm-hmm.
sharing that information is important. And
Mm-hmm.
knowing von Chu's, forceps, these things can highly impact your pelvic floor. What is the pelvic floor? This is the pelvic floor. Why does it matter? Why does it matter
Why
what
does
happens?
And let us know that it bloody matters as well, because if there's no follow up, the message is it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Once you've actually given birth, who cares what happens to your pelvic floor? Just deal with it.
But that's what it is like now, still. 6 week
Mm-hmm.
checkup is how's baby doing? Feeding well? How's the sleep? How are you feeling? Cool. Okay. There's no checks done
Mm-hmm.
at all.
No.
But so
And then you have, sorry, go ahead.
we should be told to go and see a pelvic floor physio, and we should be entitled on Medicare
Mm-hmm.
6 sessions, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of reasons why people don't get checked is the cost. It is expensive.
Yeah.
Now you can get checked if you've had pelvic floor dysfunction for 6 months, at least 6 months. You
Mm-hmm.
can go and ask for a health check on your GP, and they will give you discounted pelvic floor physio treatments. So I say go, even if you haven't had pelvic floor symptoms, just go anyway and get
Yeah.
discounted checkup, because everyone should get a pelvic floor physio check to know where you're at, because you may not be showing symptoms, but isn't it better to prevent things rather than getting to a point where you've got symptoms.
For sure, to know where you're at, and for education, because we're not educated about it. And like, I learned so much from those physio podcasts that you had with the three different physios, I think, that you talked to all together. I learned so much from that. I'm just like, I really wish I knew all this stuff before.
Yeah.
But we just don't, and it's a tragedy. And it was quite devastating listening to Mags talk about her story, because even for someone like she's obviously, she had a rough journey with a lot of things, and then she kept going to see people and they kept fobbing her off, or she'd having like really sort of horrible experiences with them. And you're already at your most vulnerable after having a baby, and you're overwhelmed, and there's so much that you don't know. And then to, on top of that, to have people be dismissive, and then for you to go away and educate yourself, and then to go back and try again, and then to be dismissive and rude again. Like, oh, it's just so hard and soul destroying, isn't it?
Yep. And there's no words really. I don't understand why it's this way. I really don't, because it's just, how many women are pregnant and giving birth now, and there's still no information postpartum? It's like we just build you up to the birth. Okay, you're pregnant. This is what you should be doing when you're pregnant. This is what you shouldn't be doing when you're pregnant. This is what you should eat, and you should exercise. And you've got options on how to give birth, and this is how you could birth. And now
postpartum. Don't even think about eating raw meat or fish or blue cheese
or pate, whatever. This is what I lived on with the second baby, because I was more aware. And I was like, fuck you, whoever gives me information, because you're wrong. And then postpartum's like, cool, you've got your baby, bye.
Absolutely. It's like, it really sort of communicates to women that their value is really just about reproducing. And as long as you as long as you come out with these babies, then, once you've done that, your job's done. You can just, do
That's exactly how I felt because I went through a birth story, what's it called? A birth story medicine session to heal from Monty's birth. And it came out that I ended up feeling like at that time I was disempowered and I had no voice, and I was just this person on a bed. I could have been dead. Their priority was baby alive. And I even felt like that. I felt like James wanted that too. He didn't, but at that time, I felt like I was just this vessel to give the child. They would do anything to me as long as baby would come out alive.
Scary, really.
Yeah.
One of my favorite women's health gurus, Dr. Jen Gunter, she often says that pregnancy should come with a health warning, just like smoking, because there's so many risks to the mother. It's one of the riskiest things that we can do is carry a child and give birth. But it's just sort of like, it's not really talked about in those terms, is it?
No, definitely not. I think that's why people get pushed into the hospital and treated as if like you're a patient. There's something wrong with you. You're injured. You need to go to hospital to be looked after, and we will help you birth this child. And for me, that's where I went wrong. I went to the hospital. I should have stayed at home, all hindsight. But then I empowered myself with the second one to get this information and to understand the birth that I had, understand my body, understand what actually the real information out there, talking to loads of different experts so that I could fill my bucket with information and take out what was going to work for me, rather than being a sponge like I was before and just feeling overwhelmed. And then doing it my way, not having the thought of I'm a patient, more that I'm this woman who knows her own body, who can birth this baby because it's inside me. The contractions are me. That's my body doing that to myself. So of course I can be in it and control it. And fortunately enough for me, the second baby came out as my healing birth. Now I know lots of people aren't lucky enough. They've been told different information. They've been scared. And it's not ever a mum's fault. It's the information we're given. But that I was fortunate enough to have a healing birth with the second.
Yeah, I wasn't. But I think what when you have your first birth, there's a really, if it doesn't end up being the magical experience that you planned or you expected it to be, which so often happens. It's a real sort of, it feels like a real letdown in some ways, doesn't it? But then
or you've
when
done
you go
something
on,
wrong. or you've done.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're really disappointed because you've set yourself up to having this amazing sort of birth experience, and it just doesn't happen because all these elements are out of your control. And
Mm.
so I did obviously go into my second birth experience a lot more informed, but again, it didn't quite it didn't quite go the way that I would have hoped, and it had its own different set of circumstances. Anyway, yeah, I kind of wanted a third baby just to have an opportunity to have a do-over.
Yeah.
Just I want to get it
Because
right this
God,
time.
see, that's the thing as well. We're thinking in our head, we just want to get it right,
Yes, exactly.
as if we've done something wrong, as if, it's just, again, not fair.
Yeah. We do it to ourselves though as well, don't we? We set ourselves up for these things
Mm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So moving on then a little bit, what societal pressures did you face regarding bouncing back after your childbirth or births, and how did they influence your recovery journey?
Now, as a personal trainer, I did have in the back of my mind that I
Hmm.
should look a certain way, because my belief is that people will work with me because they know that I can get into shape.
Hmm.
So I felt a little bit like, well, who am I? Because I have this pelvic floor dysfunction and you're wanting to do all of this exercise with me, and I can't do half the stuff because my thing's going on for me. And I don't know if I ever felt like what am I trying to say? It's like it just spurred me on more, I guess.
Hmm.
I've worked with so many different experts in the field of pelvic floor and safe return to exercise and core work. And some of them have been brilliant, some of them
Hmm.
have been not so good, but I've always got something from someone.
Hmm.
And I guess it just spurred me on more for my own journey, and I'm still on it. And the more I worked with people, the more it spurred me on, because I was like,
Hmm.
well, why is this happening? Why do I feel like I'm the only one
Yeah.
trying to rectify this problem, which is a problem? No one's sharing it, maybe
Yeah.
because they feel embarrassed, or they don't know, or they just think it's their body. But the more people I interact with, the more they're like, oh, I leak, or
Yeah.
oh, I just thought it was normal. And I'm like, no, it's not fucking normal. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal.
Yeah. And like it's what you said about you being the only one. You hear it about it, like we said before, a lot about people honing in, or trainers honing in, or exercise classes honing into the postpartum sort of recovery experience. But it's still not really integrated much into sort of general exercise stuff, is it?
Well, like I was saying, I did train the trainer. I trained
Yeah,
the group of
no.
PTs, and I
That's
felt
so
so nervous.
exciting.
Oh, I had such big imposter syndrome because I was like, I don't want to teach you to suck eggs. You're all personal trainers. So I started off saying that because I was just like,
Yeah.
God, I felt sick all week before I did that. That was a big jump for me. But when I was there, they were brilliant. They were all in their late 20s. None of them were parents. And they were so engaged and asking questions and wanted to know more information, which was brilliant. One, because they want to know, and they want to know how to help their mums
Yeah.
in their classes, because they've got such a big influx, and because they offer a creche,
Okay.
they just had no idea. They had no idea that the guys had no idea that they even had a pelvic floor. And when they asked
Yeah.
them to activate their pelvic floor by thinking of lifting their balls, it was like, what? What are you saying? And then I was saying to explain to their clients this visualizing picking up a blueberry with their vagina and activation. And they were like, do you think we could say that? I was like, it's up to you. However confident you
Yeah,
feel.
if you feel comfortable saying it, say it.
Yeah. And obviously, if you don't feel comfortable, don't pull away. They were
Yeah.
nervous about talking to mums because they didn't want them to think that they were just being gross, or, who are you? You're a
Pervy.
man. You've got no
Yeah.
idea what we've gone through and never will. But I said to them, just say that. Just say, I will never know what you've gone through, but I'm here to support you in any way I can. I even said, like, these women are walking into the gym, first time after having babies. They are already nervous. They're probably sleep deprived. They're probably already thinking, I shouldn't be here. Look at my body. Look at all these other people who are here training hard, and I'm never going to be that way.
Hmm.
So the fact that they've just walked into that space is enough. just congratulate them, support them, and know that they know their body. So it was just helping them understand about pressure management. Squats was a big one, because you get told in squats, when you lift a barbell, it's good to put on a squat belt, not for a postpartum mum. So they, training all of that. And it's true, you don't get told any of this information. And unless you want to work with mums, then you won't get told that information, because you have to niche off, you have to get added training.
Which is crazy, because so many mums will come and have a general PT. Like, they won't necessarily look for someone who's specific, or they'll maybe even assume that if you're a woman, you'll know, which isn't necessarily the case.
Again, they don't know as well. And I think women should be told, this is what to look for in a personal trainer who's going to look after you as a postpartum mum. Look out for this information.
So how
and
did
then
that...
they're empowered.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did that sort of session where you were training the trainers come about? Because I just think it's amazing that you've done that and that they were interested to know.
Well, the owner of the gym started it January 2024. And when I joined, he would just naturally ask me, what do you do? And I said this and that. And I said, have you ever thought about doing like core rehab stuff or pelvic floor stuff? Because you get a lot of mums in here. And he was like, oh, and he's quite a quiet guy.
Good for you! Oh my goodness, that's so cool. So you sort of triggered it, really, and you're getting the movement going, Lara.
Well, because I said to him, I can't do that. I've got a prolapse. And he kind of looked at me like, what the fuck's a prolapse? And I said, I can't put on that belt, or that I can't get into that position. I need to adjust it. And he was very good in that he would ask questions, and then it was just the idea dropped in his head, and he was like, And then over a year later, he contacted me and then said, you're talking about like pelvic floor stuff. We get a lot of mums. Would you be interested in teaching us how to look after them? And I was like, okay, sure.
Amazing. It's amazing. And so it really has... Sorry, go on.
I even said to him, you're very forward thinking, because I believe all gym owners should have an added training in this, and a constant top-up taster every quarter, because it's easy to forget.
Definitely.
And then they can come to me asking example questions of specific clients where they struggle. Now, that doesn't happen, but I said to him, you're very forward thinking, and he was like, again, the quiet guy, just like...
It's amazing. And it's really sort of, I guess, your whole experience, and it's really in some ways molding the direction you're going as a personal trainer, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't think I would. I didn't realise how much passion I had there until recently, actually, until having Arthur, the second one. And then I sort of lost my way after having Arthur, thinking, I don't know what I should be doing. I don't know if I should even be in this industry. And then hiring an online business manager only over Christmas, and talking to her about my passions and my life a little bit, and what I really love doing, and realised that's my thing. Like, I'm still going through it myself, so I want more. I don't want mums to go through what I went through ultimately, and if I can nip it in the bud sooner, then, and also help them know that they're not the only ones going through it too.
Exactly. And it's an amazing thing to be able to do, isn't it? To help empower other women, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you've explored also a lot of traditional support services and therapies. Is there any one in particular that you found most effective?
I mean, I go back to it, but pelvic floor physios, it's a pelvic floor physio, not a women's health physio. I didn't know the difference until like a year ago prior. I just thought they're all the same. But pelvic floor physios specialise in that area of the pelvic floor and the core. So, and hiring someone again who helps you feel empowered. Like I've worked with kinesiologists, osteos, physios, Pilates instructors, chiropractors, all around this sort of women's health and body and pelvic floor. And I've even been trained in safe return to exercise, and I felt very let down by that training, because I brought up that I have an avulsion, and it was brushed off as if like, well, you've got an avulsion, You're
Did
not
they know
going to
what it
get...
was?
Well, I'd hope so. They were training the course, but it was very brushed off. And I thought, maybe I'm the only one who has this avulsion. Because even when I typed into Instagram hashtag levator avulsion, it was like in 50, 100 people tag it.
Okay.
But so going back to it, I found a very supportive physio, and I found an even more supportive osteo who, until recently, I was still worrying subconsciously that my organs were going to fall out my vagina every time I did something. And I love Olympic lifts. I love lifting heavy weights. And I want to keep doing it. And I'm even trying to train for a high rocks competition one day, which is like the ultimate goal and the ultimate impact on the pelvic floor. So for me, it would be such an achievement just to complete it without leaking.
Absolutely.
But also to then share with other people that it's possible, because I would have gone from complete, like all of the pelvic floor dysfunction that you could have, I've got, to go
doing
competing in a crazy race.
I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. Me too. But yeah, this osteo was very much like, I think you think that your organs are going to fall out of your vagina and they're really not.
Yeah.
And I cried in that session. I remember crying like, okay, no one's ever told me that before.
Yeah. And you've tried using a pessary as well, and like I know that's something that can be used to support keeping all your bits in when you are suffering from a prolapse. You have done episodes specifically that have kind of focused in on that. Do you want to say a bit about that right now? Or should we move on?
Well, the pessary is like a replacement of the pelvic floor. It's there to support it, and then you can do some training to help strengthen it while it's in its support. Or you can just keep it there because maybe you're someone who does high impact sports and CrossFit. I didn't realise that if you have a pessary, you can still leak. So it's not a fix, but there are so many different pessaries that you can try and make sure that you get fitted for. Now, I was contacted a month or two ago by a mum who she was telling me that she has an avulsion, and sort of relieved that she found someone who also has an avulsion, but she was let down by a postpartum rehab service, who said, just put this pessary in and use it. She wasn't told how to use it. She wasn't fitted, and she wasn't told how to remove it. So she put this cube in, which is a cube. So it's got suctions on each side, and there's lots of different sizes. And you pop it in, you bend it, add loads of lubrication on it to get it in. You sit in a squat position and you pop it up, and it should feel like nothing's in there. And you've got a little hoop so that you can pull it out to get it out. However, with a cube, you have to break the seal in order for it to come out at an angle how you popped it in. Otherwise, you're pulling the suction.
So you're making it worse.
Was obviously not told how to remove a cube, and she pulled it out and she damaged, and she ended up having a prolapse. And that was from someone who's meant to be an expert. So there should be a list of things that you should look for. I actually got a video. I did a video of what to expect in an internal pelvic floor check, so that you know what to expect, what you deserve, and what is not good enough.
Yeah.
And then
it's
find
not all
someone
horror
else.
Stories. There are amazing people out there.
There is the pessary story that I've got on the podcast is an amazing story.
It is. Yeah. So don't worry too much. But
no,
advocate for yourselves.
Advocate for yourselves. And if you're not getting the information, or you're not happy with the information shared, find someone else.
So after sort of listening to especially the stuff on physio, and they encourage you to know yourself, and like to maybe even like you could do a little self-examination. So I had a little go of doing a self-examination. I had a little feel around, and like, you know, I think they suggest putting 2 fingers up and then putting your fingers up your vaginal canal, and then putting your fingers against your walls, and then trying to clench and release. It's actually really hard to do that on yourself. I'm gonna have another
as well, isn't it?
I'm gonna have another go. And also I had a bit of feel because you know, I guess I just ignore that sort of area of myself quite a lot, and I hadn't, you know, my perineum is a lot looser and fleshier than I remember it being before kids, and I don't know. I find it hard to remember what it was like, what it was like down there before children. But I feel like it was a bit firmer, and I've got a little hemorrhoid that I've never done anything about because it's not really bothered me. That I've had since my second childbirth. And so I was. This is a question to you. Like, I suppose I feel like I've done a lot of work for myself on my pelvic floor, having experienced leakage and things like that after childbirth, and I feel like I've got my pelvic floor in a good place. I'm comfortable with exercise. I'm not having any other issues that I'm not necessarily symptomatic. Do you think there's benefit in someone like me going and having a physio sort of checkup, a pelvic floor checkup?
I would always say yes. Like,
Hmm.
just for your own peace of mind. Like, have you ever had a check?
No, never.
Definitely then.
Like,
Because
I
what
had a
have you got to
forceps.
lose?
Well, that's what I was kind of thinking. I had a forceps delivery. I may well have a prolapse that I don't even know about, or something at the beginning, and it would just be maybe good to know. I do. I heard you talking about having sort of tightness in one side, and that
Yeah,
that
that's
can be related to pelvic floor. So I thought maybe I should go and have a check, see what happens, see if they've got anything to say. Like you said, there's nothing to lose, is there?
yeah. And then you've got the information. I will always err on the side of empowered, like
Hmm.
you know what's going on. And just to explain to listeners what I was talking about with tightness on one
Hmm.
side, tends to be apparently due to the levator avulsion. So you can
Hmm.
have an avulsion on one side or the other side.
Hmm.
It's where the muscle moves away from the pubic bone. So that's not going to come back, but
Hmm.
there's lots of stuff that we can do to strengthen all of the other muscle in that pelvic floor bowl.
Hmm.
But what I have been experiencing is that you get tightness because you've got an overactive side because it's trying to do more of the work because the other side's a bit lax.
Hmm.
So then I get tightness in my hip flexor and my psoas. So releasing, doing down training of that overactive tight pelvic floor
Hmm.
and starting to do all of the strength work that I do, getting the pressure management, involving my breath with the core and the TA activation,
Hmm.
as well as moving my body, full body movements whilst doing this,
Hmm.
has been the thing that benefits. But that's
Okay.
the tightness that you could get.
So interesting, isn't it?
And that's why when people get told to do Kegels,
Hmm.
again, it's a letdown. Like, it's someone who hasn't looked at you enough as an individual. And if you're told just after a pelvic floor physio, just do some Kegels, well, okay, what's the reason you're asking me to do that? And how many should I be doing and how often?
Yeah.
If they are a good pelvic floor physio, they would have done an internal check if you're happy doing that. Sometimes
Yeah.
people can do an ultrasound. If you don't want people to put hands in you, maybe whatever's going on for you, you don't have to. There's other things that they can do to help you understand your pelvic floor better. But an internal is brilliant to know. And they will put their hands inside and palpate all of the sides of the wall to
Hmm.
find the endurance of your muscles. So the stuff that you need to work on. So the strength of it. So they will tell you how long to hold a Kegel for and
Hmm.
how many cycles. And
Hmm.
then they may ask you to do that for a month and then increase it, or they may ask you to come back and then you get checked again to see if your endurance has improved or your strength has improved on one side or the other side or all.
Hmm.
But just telling you to do Kegels without checking you
Hmm.
is not fair on
Hmm.
you. Yes, Kegels can be super beneficial. However,
Okay.
there's so many other things that you can do that can be better. It's like constantly doing one bicep curl.
Yeah.
You're a
So,
whole body being. There's so much
uh-huh.
more going on with you. And if your breath work isn't right, or if your pressure management isn't right, you're doing
Yeah.
all these Kegels, but you're not
Yeah.
actually getting to the root cause of why you're still leaking.
Mm. I think that's one of the biggest things that I learn is connecting how you connect your breath to the exercises that you're doing. And like in terms of breathing out and breathing in to breathing out to contract your pelvic floor, which is almost slightly counterintuitive, isn't it?
It's a complete mind fuck,
Yeah.
really. Especially when I'm training people, they're like, "But how?" It's a session in
Yeah.
itself just on
Yeah.
that.
And like, so that's how I feel like I manage my, or continue to work with maintenance in my pelvic floor, is just incorporate pelvic floor awareness into all the sort of strength training and exercises that I do. Is that enough, or should I be doing anything else? Because I find it really hard to do stuff that's not kind of incorporated in stuff that I do daily. So like doing an extra few sort of sets of Kegels, I find hard to be consistent with.
I'm going to give you a rubbish answer. I wouldn't know. I would go with
Okay.
what your physio would say, because what if I say to you, you should do more, and you end up having a hypertonic pelvic floor, which is overactive, and you should be doing some breathing down exercises more than the activation while you strength train. So when you're in a squat, you should be breathing down, because you get the same symptoms as if it's hypertonic or if it's weak.
So you're going down the whole responsible professional route.
I know, just a little bit, just to.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I think it's probably wise. Well, Lara, so I think we've covered a lot in our chat here. Is there anything that you'd particularly like people who've listened today to go away sort of having hope?
Broken record, get checked. You deserve to be checked. So many mums say to me, I don't have the time, I need to do this or I need to do that. I know it can be nerve-wracking to find out what's going on, but better that and have the information to then know what to do to proceed, and know that you're not broken. You can do whatever you want postpartum. You can be stronger than even before you've had babies. It just takes more knowledge, some boring rehab stuff. But if you think about the rehab, and I know I bring it back to basics, a lot of us need to just focus on our breathing pattern, and it can change our posture. It can change how we manage that pressure. It can change how we activate our core. Because if you think of it as a pregnant woman, she's had her ribs expand out to the up here to accommodate for big baby, all of her organs pushed up into her throat, and then that big anterior tilt in the lower back to accommodate, and then baby just comes out. The body's still in that state, and then we've got that stress response constantly looking after a baby, so we're always staying shallow breathing into the chest, so we get all that tension in our neck and shoulders, and it stays there, and then we wonder what's going on, when ultimately all we need to do for some big results is just focus on breathing, getting the ribs to come out to the side. I'm yoga trained, so I get told to belly breathe, but that's not enough. That's not that proper breathing. I hate the word diaphragmatic breathing because you can only breathe using your diaphragm, but putting your hands on your ribs, lying there and breathing. Every time you breathe in, focusing on those ribs coming out to the side. Your belly will come out with it as well, but often I find people struggle just to get those ribs to come out because they're just in that constant shallow breathing into the chest, and it's all that tension up here.
And the releasing of that is just as important as the sort of tensing of it.
Yeah, breathing all the way out. And you can do it before bed. You can do it throughout your day. You can do it while you're bathing your kids, just lying on the floor. They can do it with you.
Yeah. Wow. So much information. So hopefully that's been useful to listeners. Thank you for speaking from your heart. But that's us from today, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Thanks for interviewing me. How was it?
Oh, I don't know how I did. We'll see. All right,
just so people know, I do have a Facebook group called Strong as a Mother, and it's free, but it's private. It's for people who are experiencing core and pelvic floor dysfunction and have no idea what to do with that information. And I am just honest in there and go live every week and share information and answer your questions. So you can utilize that if you are struggling with knowing what to do.
That's amazing. Like a free resource that people can jump in on. Thanks for doing that.
That's like
hopefully.
What's it called? Agony aunt.
Agony aunt. Yeah. I know what you mean. There's another. When people phone in with their problems and you like help them through it. Sort of thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Agony aunt.
Yeah. Agony Lara. Okay. Thanks for listening, everyone. Leaky Lara.
Thanks for listening. Bye.